Hi everybody, I'm Julie Hedlund, which you probably know since you're probably on my blog or at my YouTube channel. But I am very excited because today I'm doing my first ever video blog, and I have a very cool person who I'm going to be interviewing today as that very first video blog. I was too chicken to do one all by myself. So I want to thank Sarah Towle, who is here. Sarah and I met at the Bologna Book Fair, and it was quite a relief to meet her because I didn't know anything or anyone, and I was sort of wandering around aimlessly with my eyes like this. And I met Sarah the first morning to talk about apps. She was in the SCBWI booth talking about meeting with people to talk about app development because she herself had developed what I consider to be very groundbreaking app in a lot of ways, called, and I'm going to butcher the French, Beware Mme la Guillotine. How'd I do? Okay, great. And what's fascinating about this app is it combines history and storytelling and art and travel in a way that I think is just amazing. And it's geared for older children who, say, might be taking a trip to Paris with their family, and they want to learn something about the French Revolution, or maybe they don't, but the parents want their kids to be able to get more out of the experience. And I think making history come alive for kids is so important, because otherwise, let's face it, it's just boring. You go and you see all these buildings and you see these paintings. We were talking about, going to a museum and looking at painting after painting. And what Sarah has done is basically made the French Revolution come alive through a real-life character named Charlotte Corday. And now I'm going to let Sarah tell you a little bit about it, and then we'll take the interview from there. So, Sarah, do you want to tell us a bit about how you developed it and what gave you the idea and the inspiration, and just a little bit about the app itself?
Sure. It started out as a book idea, actually. We moved to Paris, and the French wouldn't let me work in my profession as a teacher. And so rather than go mad, I thought I would do what a lot of Americans in Paris do and write a book. And mine was going to be...
Sounds so glamorous. Oh, I'm just going to write a book in Paris. Anyway, go ahead.
Just be like all the other Americans in Paris. Anyway, this was going to be a little different, though. It would be a new generation of travel guide for a new generation of traveler. That was the original conceit. And the idea was a trip through time, each chapter devoted to a different era in the history of Paris. And each tale told through the point of view of somebody who lived at that time and whose actions helped shape the time. So that the storyteller would be your tour guide rather than a historian, because kids don't really respond, at least mine, don't really respond that well to lots of dates that jump chronological times. They need context, and everybody loves a good story. So I was walking across the Pont au Change one day, which links the right bank to the Ile de la Cité, right in front of the old palace, the original palace. And I heard a Midwestern man's voice behind me saying, "Well, I think that's the conciergerie, but I can't find the Châtelet. Where's the Châtelet? I don't know where the Châtelet is." And I turned around and I told him the Châtelet was, torn down, in Napoleon's time, and now it's been replaced by these lovely theaters, but that is the conciergerie. And we got to talking, and I noticed these two boys next to him just fidgeting and bored, and they were about my height, a little awkward, sort of maybe 12, 13. And I turned to them and I said, that was the original palace of the medieval kings, and that tower right there, that was their torture chamber. And that one right there, that's where they held their money. And you can go there. It's a museum. You can go and you can see the table that they used to eat, that the medieval policemen used to eat their meals on. And they said, "Dad, can we go? Can we go? Can we go?" And so Dad trotted off to get tickets to the conciergerie, and Mom pulled me aside and said, "Could I hire you?" They do is get back to their video games.
Mm.
Bing! That was
Right.
my aha moment. This book that I was writing would be better delivered to the target age group in a format that they love and understand. They're all digital natives now.
Right.
Let's make it an app. And I'm so glad I did, because as a book, you couldn't have the same level of interactivity. You'd have the story, but you'd have to read it out loud. And the story would take you through the history and the era from place to place, but you couldn't then, touch a map to identify where you are.
Right.
Or as you know, there are little treasure hunts and games within the app that wouldn't have worked in print. I could have done little things, but then you'd have to turn the pages to find the codes to
Right.
get your answers right.
Right.
So it just was an accident, really, the project.
A very time-consuming accident that's taken, like, how many years of your life now?
Well, if you start back with the original idea, 6.
Okay, there you go. People, writing is not easy. App development is not easy. And I will say, I've been all the way through the app, which I love, and I don't really... I've been to Paris a few times, but don't really know much about the French Revolution, and so I was just, fascinated. And the add-on features that you have are really cool, but honestly, it is just a really good story, and so I want to bring us back around to that, because you have to write a really good story. You have to find that great story that is really going to engage kids, and then you can build on some of the other cool stuff. Right. I loved how you had them looking for things, and those are like little secrets that you give them that they would otherwise pass by, and they would never see it. And the maps and the take the metro here and there, and it is like having a 16th century tour guide, minus they didn't have metros back then, but you know what I mean.
Right.
So now that
is the key. I just story first.
Right.
I wanted the story to be the best story it could possibly be, and the all the rest was additional fun.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so with that, now that you have this app, your company is called Time Traveler Tours, and we're going to put a link to that. And there are a couple of other apps that are listed there as up and coming and in development. So your intention is ultimately to turn this into a series of apps, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And so tell us a little bit about what's coming.
All right. Well, hopefully by Halloween. So now you've got the story of the French Revolution with a murderer. We forgot to mention.
Yes, she is a murderess.
Murderess. She's a 24-year-old convent schoolgirl turned
right.
murderess. So, what's not to like about...
Who murdered somebody in his bathtub, no less.
In his bathtub.
It's pretty
and
cool.
It really happened. And then she lost her head.
Right.
So the next story that I'm polishing right now and will soon go to my editor is called Day of the Dead, and it's I don't want to give away the all right, I'll give it away. The narrator is a grave digger's ghost.
Oh, very cool.
Right. So back in Roman and medieval time, Parisians just dumped their dead in church graveyards in big, deep pits, and they piled the bodies on and on and on and on and on until they filled up, and then generally they could contain about 1,500 bodies, and then they cover them up and open a new pit, dig out all the old decomposed bones and put them in charnel houses, and then start throwing more dead in.
Yikes.
And by the time the revolution rolled around, the graveyards were overburdened and pestilential and causing diseases.
Pestilential, what a great word.
And really, really bad smells. This, we talk about writing having to incorporate the senses. This one's all about smell. And every word for putrid and stench, it's in there.
Right. Okay.
I hope I haven't overdone it. Anyway, so they vowed that King Louis XVI, before he lost his head, stopped all burying at these church graveyards, and then eventually they had to do something with them, so they dug them up and they moved them to the old Roman quarries that are now in the south of the city. Mm-hmm. In those days, it was still the country, and there's hundreds of kilometers of networks of old limestone quarries that were dug by the Romans, and they deposited them there. And then in the era of Napoleon Bonaparte, he wanted catacombs to rival those of Rome. So he had to,
of course he did,
and organized the bones into nice patterns and
good
walls
Lord.
of skulls. And so now the catacombs in the 14th arrondissement is a tourist destination. It's a fascinating place. And right next to it, of course, that's what they did with the bones of the already dead, but they had to do something with the new dead. So it was Napoleon who built the famous Paris cemeteries.
Huh.
So my tour guide isn't necessarily as real as Charlotte. Charlotte really did exist and really did kill a man.
Uh-huh.
But somebody had to dig up those graveyards.
Right.
Move those bones. So I've created a character out of what could have been. And this is a tour to the catacombs and the Montparnasse Cemetery.
Wow.
That hope will come out for Halloween.
Right. Oh, yes, very exciting.
I also have one coming out to the gardens at Versailles. That'll come out next spring. And a fourth one that is in development now that I'm writing that's told through the eyes of the world's first portrait photographer.
Wow. So cool. Yeah. Well, I can't wait. And it makes me, who doesn't want to come to Paris? But it makes me want to come back to Paris so badly. So if you ever need to hire somebody to go around and test these apps to make sure that they really work, I am available. Okay?
Great.
All right. So let's go on. Because, another link that we're going to include is a link to your Sensations interview, which was awesome, that came out during Bologna, right after Bologna.
That was fun.
Yeah, it's a really, really good interview with a lot of background on what went into building the app and the things that you had to do. So I'm not going to ask you those questions because they're available if people want to find them. But I did note that you are working with your agent, so you have an agent. I was going to say her name, and that's why I came out with. You have an agent, and you are talking about different ways that you can use this material. So, can you, just using the Charlotte Corday, Mme la Guillotine, talk about what are some of the other things that you're looking at that you can use from your app, because I think that's fascinating too, all the ideas that are coming around, because there's a lot of talk today about how you could start electronic and then go print and things like that, and that may be one of your directions. So can you just tell us a little bit about some of the other things that might come out of it?
Absolutely. Obviously it's my dream as a writer to be in print, so I would hope that would be the case. We had talked, Ergie and I, about rewriting the app stories as short stories for the middle grade audience and illustrating them. Mm-hmm. So one idea would be illustrated histories for the middle grade age group. Mm-hmm. It's also been brought to our attention that Mme la Guillotine or Charlotte's story could make a great screenplay. In fact, I did already rewrite Charlotte's story as a short story, and I've submitted it to 2 contests so far, and it was shortlisted in both. So
congratulations!
Thank you. That was really fun. And the other thing that I think is really exciting is, I'd love for you to be able to come to Paris too and do my app, but you might not get there for a while.
Don't say that. No.
Or your neighbor might not get there for
there
a while.
You go.
And why couldn't or shouldn't he or she be able to take the tour virtually?
Right.
So this is not something I can self-finance, but we would love for a major publishing house or somebody to do to produce the tours for us virtually.
Right, like a video tour.
Classrooms or families at home could go to the French Revolution with Charlotte and be there.
Mm-hmm. And actually see the things that the people who are doing the app would see, because it would be there in video. Because you've said that this has actually gotten quite a bit of use in curriculum. Is that right?
Yeah, that's been a big surprise. I mean, as I said, I created this as a new generation of tour guide for a new generation of traveler. Mm-hmm. But it's selling much, much more, or it's getting more use in the education world. And teachers and librarians are buying it to complement history curricula, mainly in secondary schools. It was a 2011 top 10 school library journal app, which I'm very proud of. And also teachers with apps gave it a top 10 2011 distinction.
Great.
So I don't know if that's because I'm a teacher formerly, an educator, and it's just easier for me to market to that community, or if it actually is better for that community. So I'm experimenting with resetting the story, the app, as an iBook in the iBook authoring tool.
Right.
And we'll see. I mean, it's just an experiment, and we'll see, if it sells any better as an iBook. It won't be quite as interactive. You can't have narration in an iBook yet. That's what I love about the app. I love that you can have Charlotte telling you the story.
And you can have her telling you in English and in French.
And it's
or in French, I should say. And the text, too.
In one language,
right.
Listen in another. And we won't be able to do that in the iBook space. But, for those teachers who might otherwise buy it but won't because it's on this device instead of the bigger one.
The iPad, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so that leads me to my next question, because you mentioned that this is an experiment. I mean, this whole thing just was a brainchild of yours, and you've birthed it and brought it to life, and then you're sort of looking and saying, well, what's happening with it? Things that you didn't expect are happening, things that maybe you expected aren't happening, and now, you're in a position of looking at how to build this out as a business, going forward. And I absolutely think that there's something just so awesome here and so needed, given some of the dryness of travel books, or dare I say, high school history books and things of that nature. So, but I'll ask you kind of probably what is the question you hate getting asked the most, which is, have you been able to make this financially viable yet? Are you making money from your app? Yeah. Okay.
Well, in the current iteration, it is not a viable business. Apps, the culture of mobile apps, or of all apps at the moment, hopefully it'll change, is basically the smaller the screen size, the cheaper the price. Mm-hmm. And that's really working against me right now, because when I decided to create this as an app, I had a bigger price tag envisioned, so my business plan reflected that, and I also didn't realize how much it would cost. It's really backward. Apps are really cool. I mean, mobile apps, the mobile app environment is so powerful, and you can do so much stuff with it and add so much interactivity. So they're more expensive to build, but they're cheaper to sell. And so, no, I will not be able to make this a viable business just selling apps. I have to, and just selling my own stories. So, mm-hmm. So I'm looking to scale the idea, because I do believe in it, and I'm really thrilled to hear that you do as well. I think there's something there, and in order to make it work as a business, I need to scale it to other cities and mm-hmm. other stories, meaning I need other authors.
Which is kind of leading us to our grand finale, because I think this is also a very exciting opportunity, potentially, for writers, which is, in order to scale it and to get as much content as you can in this sphere, you are now taking submissions. You're looking for people to send you their ideas and their stories.
I am. You've heard it here first, folks.
Woohoo! Yeah.
the guinea pig. I am the guinea pig with this lovely web. What do you call it? Video blog.
Oh, right, vlog or whatever it's called. I don't know. Yeah.
And you're the first to hear the announcement that yes, in short, as of today, really, I would love to solicit collaborations from other writers who would like to help in creating Time Traveler Tours interactive story apps, putting history in the palm of your hand and putting the past in the palm of your hand and discovering history with those that made it.
Right.
So if you want to tell the story that needs to be told in your hometown, feel free to send me a pitch, a writing sample, a synopsis of what the itinerary might be. You'd probably be best to look at Beware Mme la Guillotine and get a sense of what the idea is, keeping in mind that Beware Mme la Guillotine is an epic. It's really long, and we need to shorten it down to short story sized interactive stories in the future.
Right. Although, I agree with you on the one hand, because I agree with that if you're with your kids and you had mentioned the Arc de Triomphe and you want to just go there, you're going to go there anyway. So if you can kind of create something that's sort of a little more short and sweet that really focuses on that area and things that they can look for in games, I totally agree. But I will say that you did a very impressive job of handling something as complex as the French Revolution to at least give somebody kind of a sense that they, like me, for example, who hasn't read much on the French Revolution, the sense, that they kind of have an idea of how it got started and why, and the main events, and then how it came to an end, and so I think that there might just be different markets too, ultimately.
Yeah. I hope you're right. I will not be changing Beware Mme la Guillotine. She is what she is, and she's proven herself. But she does ask a lot. It's a day-long itinerary. And so a day-long itinerary, if it's appropriate, a half-day itinerary, if it's appropriate. I think it would depend on the story and the town.
Right.
And the content, really, the number of stops. And the reason that I did Beware Mme la Guillotine first, as I said, it started as a book, and I've already got 4 chapters written. But I chose that one because I felt if I could make the French Revolution work, make it accessible to young people, then I can probably do the rest.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet. All right, so if somebody wants to submit to you, they should consider a pitch, carefully crafted pitch that would have a specific story that would be told from the perspective of a person living during that time, with kind of the mapped out itinerary in terms of how long it would take to complete it, and just a little synopsis of the story. And that, where should they send that? Do you have? Maybe I'll just put a link.
I'll put a link to my email address, which is stowles@timetravelertours.com.
Okay. And maybe you'll be getting one from me.
Super! I can't wait.
Okay. Well, thank you.
The idea initially is we're creating something here, so
right.
I'd like to enter into a collaborative process. If I say to you now, write me a full MS, I might not get it for a year, and then it may have changed. This is the fun thing about digital publishing, and what makes it so exciting is you don't have to know necessarily going in, because you can shift and change and iterate along the way.
Right.
It's much more agile type of publishing than print could ever have been, because there you had to feed everything through the
right.
pipeline, as it were, and spit it out the other end. Now we can try, change, try again.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I think it's worth noting that, because I think collaboration when is comforting to someone like me as a writer. Like I would be too daunted by the prospect of just writing up a whole story and sending it to you and hoping that you were going to take it, as opposed to, a really good idea that's all mapped out, and then you like the idea, and then I know I can start filling that, building the body around the skeleton kind of thing. Because you're right, it is exciting, and but you want to make sure that you're doing it in the right way, or the way that's going to work for the product, as opposed to just trying to shoehorn something that somebody's already written into a format where it may not work, right? So
correct.
Yeah.
And beware, Mme la Guillotine, though she has proven herself, is flawed, and we're gonna fix those flaws.
All right. Well, I just want to say thanks so much for coming.
I should have ended on such a negative note.
No. Oh, no, she's awesome. You're going to leave her alone. I insist. What I was going to say, too, is that I forgot to mention, in case people don't know, that in case they couldn't tell by the gilded mirrors and so on behind you, that Sarah is actually in Paris. So we conducted this interview from Colorado to Paris. And earlier on, I heard the police cars go by with their French-sounding horns, and I thought, wow, how cool is that, So, anyway, like I said, I'm available as a tester for these itineraries if you need one. And thank you for being my first ever video blogging guest. I know we talked for quite a while, but it's just so fascinating, and I think that people are only going to have more questions after they hear this. It's just amazing. You guys have to check out this app. Especially, I love traveling, and I love history, and I hated history when I was a kid. I hated the way it was taught in school. And so it's very, and you have the original artwork that you've gotten rights for, and making art more accessible. So check out the app and then send in your submissions.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Julie, it's a super pleasure.
Yes, it's nice to see your face again.
You too.
Okay, take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.